right now is Justin Tensler. He's hooked up again. He's low-holing us, waiting for us to have to come in here and do a couple tech tips, do some system approaches, and he just hooked up using a plug, and that is the system we're going to talk about here right now on the Olympic Peninsula up here. Beautiful, beautiful day once again on our second day up here. It's just gorgeous. But we're going to explain exactly how to set up for back trolling plugs, and we're going to really dive into the details on setting up the right rod, reel, line, leader, all the way on down to your plug. Let's start with the rod and how important that is for back trolling plugs. This here is a Lamb-Glass 801, but what you're typically looking for is a soft tip. And in fact, if you wouldn't mind here, Jared, I'm going to have you hold on to that. Step back a little bit. You want a soft rod so the plug can continue to work and move freely, because if the rod is stiff, then you aren't going to be able to get the same action out of the plug that you're looking to get. So again, you want a soft rod so it can move freely, let the plug work. So that's super, super important. But the rod also needs to have a good backbone. So when it loads up, you'll still have enough power to turn these fish. So what's going to happen when these fish come up to bite, you're going to see the plug working, they're going to hit it hard once, then turn, and then it's going to be buttoned down. And when you get into that backbone there, you can see about 2/3 of the way back. Once it hits that backbone, that's going to drive the hook home, and the fish will be on there nice and strong. You'll have plenty of backbone to turn the fish and be able to control it. So this here is a Daiwa AccuDepth reel. It's a low profile reel. I like these just because it fits in your hand better, a little bit easier to control. And as you can see, it actually has a line counter, a digital line counter readout, which is awesome. So, because if you have one line out at 40, one out at 50, one out at 60, the fish can just move off and make their way on upriver past your set. But if they're all out at 40, 50, 60 feet behind the boat, then it's just going to be a wall of bait and lures coming down at them. They can't turn left, they can't turn right. They have to make that fight or flight reaction, and it worked out for us earlier today.
Yeah, that's the way you do it. You know, when I'm running plug to myself, I do the same thing. I make sure they're all out the same distance, you know, and you may be kicking a fish that's here, and it makes you decide real quick and see that other plug, and it's done mad, and it's had enough, and wham, like somebody poking your chest. Once, maybe twice, it's not going to happen.
As long as you are equal throughout every rod on the boat, that is the most important factor. Now, because I have a little bit softer rod and I'm trying to get the most action out of my plugs, I like to use braided line on my plug rods. There's no stretch in it, so it'll work the plug a little bit better. And because the rod is limber up top, the braided line will help drive that hook home because, again, there's no stretch in it. Monofilament will stretch a lot, so if you have monofilament with the soft rod and the stretch, you may not get the hook set that you're hoping to get. So we're gonna move on down the rig here, and you can use either a swivel, or I like to use this little knot right here, so that way I don't need to use a swivel. But having just a simple swivel right here in the break between your braid and your main line is a great way to do it, just because you can get away from the braided line down there near the plug, have a little bit of stretch so when you are hooked up, the fish, when it's jumping, doesn't rip the hook out of its mouth because of the no stretch in the braid or pop it. Right, exactly. Having just a little bit of stretch in there, a little bit of forgiveness is nice. So I only put about a 6-foot top shot on top of my braided line there.
I really like the braided line as well because it allows a plug to dive to its maximum capability of depth. You know, too many people will put on a 20-pound test line and try to run a plug like this and expect it to work. Well, that plug is going to fight that line. That monofilament's going to go out so far and it's going to get a belly, and the plug's going to be fighting the line, and it's not going to dive to its maximum depth, and you're not going to get the maximum action out of that plug. So that braided line, being that thin diameter, coming down tight into this nice monofilament leader, is going to allow that plug to work at its maximum capability.
There's a lot of talk about using no clip, one clip or even 2 clips on the nose of the plug going to it. I like having a clip on there just because I'm constantly changing colors, and it does allow freedom movement for the plug to work. So what are your thoughts on that?
Again, I agree. The Maglet 3.5 comes with a standard 53 snap on them. The 53 snap is what you want on the Maglet. You don't really want to go bigger, and it will add weight to the plug. It will make it a little bit more sluggish. I prefer always running a snap, especially with this Maglet. The action on this Maglet with skip lead action is very erratic. I mean, it doesn't just sit in a line and run down it. So without the snap, you're not going to get your maximum action out of the plug by tying directly to the pull point.
Right. Hopefully this helped you out a little bit. Again, nice long soft rod, so that way you can work the plug. A line counter on your reel does help out quite a bit. Braided line, down to a chop shot on your leader, a dual lock snap, size 53, down to your plug, Old Faithful. All right, that's it for us. Time for us to go catch one.
Let's get them.
All right, buddy.